Hello, this is Joel Brissett. I'm here with Steve Scheffler and Corey Worthen. We're all members of Edith F. Brown's finance team in Dallas. And we're standing in front of the Fair Park African American Museum. As part of our team celebration of Black History Month, we thought this would be a good location for me to give my personal rendition of Dr. King's most famous speech, the I Have a Dream speech, which he delivered on a hot summer day, August 28, 1963, before a huge throng of people, some 250,000 who had come from all across the United States, black and white, rich and poor, Jew and Gentile, and they came for the express purpose of, in effect, pulling America's coattails and serving notice upon America that now was the time for the greatest nation on the face of the earth to come to terms with its centuries-old problem of racial discrimination and racial injustice. When Dr. King's name was announced for him to come to the dais to speak, a trickle of applause emerged from the gallery. But that trickle of applause quickly mushroomed into a deafening crescendo because those who had come so far wanted to hear a word of hope. They wanted to hear a word of assurance from the prophetic voice, the spiritual spokesperson of the civil rights movement, that their labors for freedom, justice, and equality for all Americans would not be in vain. And Dr. King did not disappoint them, for he delivered what many have declared to have been one of the greatest, if not the greatest, speech ever delivered in the 20th century. Here's what Dr. King had to say on that historic date, August 28th, 1963, at the March on Washington. I'm happy to join with you today for what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation. 50 years ago, a great American, in whose symbolic shadow we stand today, signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This momentous decree came as a great beacon of light and hope to millions of Negro slaves who had been seared in the flames of withering injustice. It came as a joyous daybreak to end their long night of captivity. But 100 years later, the Negro still is not free. 100 years later, the Negro still is sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. 100 years later, the Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. 100 years later, the Negro is still languished in the corners of American society and finds himself to be in exile in his own land. So we've come here today to dramatize a shameful condition. In a sense, we've come to the nation's capital to cash a check. You see, when the architects of our republic wrote the magnificent words of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, they were signing a promissory note to which every American would fall in. This note was a promise that all men, yes, black men as well as white men, would be guaranteed the inalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But it is obvious today that America has defaulted on this promissory note insofar as her citizens of color are concerned. Instead of honoring this sacred obligation, America has given the Negro people a bad check, a check that's come back marked insufficient funds. But we refuse to believe that the Bank of Justice is bankrupt. We refuse to believe that there are insufficient funds in the great vaults of opportunity of this nation. So we've come here today to cash this check, a check that will give us upon demand the riches of freedom and the security of justice. We've also come to this hallowed spot to remind America of the fierce urgency of now. This is no time to engage in the luxury of cooling off or to take the tranquilizing drug of gradualism. Now is the time to make real the promises of democracy. Now is the time to rise up from the dark and desolate valley of segregation to the sunlit path of racial justice. Now is the time to lift our nation from the quicksands of racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. Now is the time to make justice a reality for all of God's children. It would be fatal for the nation to ignore the urgency of the moment. This sweltering summer of the Negro's legitimate discontent will not pass until there is an invigorating autumn of freedom and equality. 1963 is not an end, but a beginning. Those who hoped the Negro needed to blow off steam and will now be content will have a rude awakening if the nation returns to business as usual. There will be neither rest nor tranquility in America until the Negro is granted his citizenship rights. The whirlwinds of revolt will continue to shake the foundations of this nation until the bright day of justice emerges. But there is something I must say to my people today who stand on the worn threshold that leads into the palace of justice. In the process of gaining our rightful place, we must not be guilty of wrongful deeds. Let us not seek to satisfy our thirst for freedom by drinking from the cup of bitterness and hatred. We must forever conduct our struggle on the high plane of dignity and discipline. We must not allow our creative protest to degenerate into physical violence. Again and again, we must rise to the majestic heights of meeting physical force with soul force. This marvelous new militancy that has engulfed the Negro community must not lead us to a distrust of all white people. For many of our white brothers and sisters, as evidenced by their presence here today, have come to realize that their destiny is tied to our destiny, that their freedom is inextricably bound to our freedom. We cannot walk alone. And as we walk, we must pledge to always march ahead. We cannot turn back. There are those who are asking the devotees of civil rights, when will you be satisfied? We can never be satisfied as long as the Negro is the victim of unspeakable horrors of police brutality. We can never be satisfied as long as our bodies, heavy with the fatigue of travel, cannot gain lodging in the motels of the highways or in the hotels of the cities. We can never be satisfied as long as the Negro's basic mobility is from a smaller ghetto to a larger one. We cannot be satisfied as long as our children are stripped of their dignity and robbed of their selfhood by signs stating for whites only. We cannot be satisfied as long as the Negro in Mississippi cannot vote and the Negro in New York believes there is nothing for which to vote. No, we cannot be satisfied and will not be satisfied until justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. I'm not unmindful of the fact that some of you have come here today from excessive trials and tribulations. Some of you have come fresh from narrow jail cells. Some of you have come from areas in which your quest for freedom has left you battered by the storms of persecution and staggered by the winds of police brutality. You have been the veterans of creative suffering. continue to struggle with the faith that unearned suffering is redemptive. Go back to Mississippi. Go back to Alabama. Go back to South Carolina. Go back to Georgia. Go back to Louisiana. Go back to the slums and ghettos of our northern cities with the faith, hope, and the assurance to know that somehow, some way, this situation can and will be changed. Let us not wallow in the valley of despair. I say to you today, my friends, that in spite of the difficulties we face today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. Oh yes, it's a dream that's deeply rooted in the American dream. That one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day, even in the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of oppression, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and equality. Oh, I have a dream that one day my 4 little children will be able to live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. Oh, I have a dream that one day, down in Alabama, with its vicious racists, its governor, his lips dripping with the words of interposition and nullification, that one day, down in Alabama, little black boys and little black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and little white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today. Oh, I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted. Every mountain and hill shall be made low. The crooked places shall be made straight, and the rough places shall be made plain, and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. This is our faith. This is our hope. This is the faith that I go back to the South with. And with this faith, we'll be able to hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope. With this faith, we'll be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we'll be able to pray together, to sing together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we'll be free one day. This will be the day when all of God's children will be able to sing with new meaning. My country, 'tis of thee. Sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died. Land of the pilgrim's pride. From every mountainside, let freedom reign. And if America is to be a great nation, this must become true. So let freedom reign from the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire. Let freedom ring from the mighty mountains of New York. Let freedom ring from the heightening Alleghenies of Pennsylvania. Let freedom ring from the curvaceous slopes of California. Let freedom ring from the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado. But not only that, let freedom ring from Stone Mountain of Georgia. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill, every molehill in Mississippi, from every mountainside. Let freedom ring. And when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, every state and every city, we'll be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men, white men, Jews, Gentiles, Protestants, and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing the words of that old Negro spiritual. Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we're free at last.